Set in a post-apocalyptic Japan in the year 2071. The world has been mostly destroyed by mysterious monsters who are known as the Aragami. An organization known as Fenrir, who are humankind's last fortress of defense, was made to exterminate Aragami using god arcs, weapons made from Aragami cells, and those who specialize in exterminating Aragami are known as god eaters. Our young protagonist, called Lenka Utsugi, is going through the qualifying exam to join the god eaters. The scientists implant a special bracelet in his arm that will fuse with his flesh and stay on for the rest of his life. The scientists have high hopes for Lenka, and as he declares that he will be the one to destroy the Aragami, he is congratulated on his pass into the organization. In the midst of an Aragami attack, Lenka and Kota begin training under Tsubaki's orders, who is the God Eater's first instructor. Hoping to go out and destroy as much Aragami as he could, Lenka voluntarily undergoes a strict daily training regimen, but ends up constantly failing his missions. Hoping to cheer him up, Kota takes him to the weapons factory, where he is allowed to see his god arc early. Later on, an Aragami breaches their settlement from both sides. With low numbers on the defense force, Lenka volunteers to go out and defeat the Aragami. Though Tsubaki turns down his request, he takes his god arc and runs outside. With attempts of stopping him proving to be useless, he activates his burst mode. Reaching the middle of town, Lenka confronts several Aragami as they try to kill another god eater, but one of them knocks his god arc out of his hand. He was then rescued by the first unit, consisting of Soma, Lindo, and Sakuya, who easily defeat most of the Aragami. Lenka then notices one remaining Aragami trying to kill a woman. Retrieving his god arc, he transforms it into a gun and kills the Aragami, impressing the members of the first unit. Lenka and one member of the first unit, called Sakuya, remark on the transformation of Lenka's god arc before more Aragami arrive. As the first unit fight the Aragami, Lenka wishes to help, but Lindo dismisses him, telling him to hide. However, Lenka disobeys orders and fires on multiple Aragami, but is injured and rushed to a medical facility. When he regains consciousness, he is locked in a holding cell by Tsubaki to await court-martial for disobeying orders. The superiors at Fenrir eventually rule that Lenka must surrender his god's arc as punishment. When a man, called Johans, tries convincing them to let Lenka keep his god arc due to the rarity of new type users, he learns that another new type user, called Alisa, is on her way from the Russia branch. During a dinner between members of the defense unit, one member, called Hibari Takeda, mentions Lenka's attempts to fight the Aragami without a god arc. Lindo mentions that there was another person sharing those capabilities, but claims to not remember his identity. He then visits Lenka and asks him about the incident, where Lenka begs Lindo to teach him how to fight. Meanwhile, the planes transporting Alisa come under attack from a swarm of flying Aragami. Tsubaki issues orders to dispatch Lindo and Sakuya, but Lindo mentions Lenka as an addition, which Tsubaki accepts. Lenka is released and joins Lindo and Sakuya on the battlefield. They arrive to rescue Alisa, but she insists on continuing to fight. As a new swarm of Aragami approaches, Lenka and Lindo descend onto Alisa's plane, with Lindo instructing Lenka to capture Alisa. However, Alisa retaliates, announcing her refusal to leave the plane or go with Lenka and Lindo so she could tend to other survivors of the attack, including a man called Dr. Aguruma. Lenka explains the situation to Lindo, who informs him that their only option of survival is rescuing Alisa only. Lenka refuses that course of action, and Alisa forges an alliance with him. After engaging the last of the Aragami, Alisa questions Lindo about the Far East branch's practices, displeased by their apparent disregard for anyone who is not immediately useful to them. Suddenly, Sakuya announces the approach of a new, massive oracle reaction and jumps out of the helicopter, intending to use it as a decoy. Suddenly, an Ouroboros arrives, which is an enormous octopus-like Aragami, stunning Lenka and Alisa into silence. A flashback displays the ability of oracle cells to multiply and divide massively, as an induced reaction causes the formation of what appears to be the first Aragami. Tsubaki introduces Johans to Lenka and Alisa, and Johans tells Lenka that his actions in protecting Alisa's transport have resulted in the suspension of all charges against him for his disobedience. Tsubaki informs Lenka and Alisa that they will be formally assigned to the first unit, along with Kota. While out with Kota, Lenka sees Aegis Island on the horizon, and learns that the island will be able to shelter every human on Earth once completed. Later, Lenka and Kota accompany the rest of the first unit on a mission to take down 6 powerful Aragami. During the battle, Lindo speaks out against Alisa's inability to fight as a team. After the mission, the first unit encounters a group of civilians who lost most of their people in an Aragami attack, and seek shelter at the Far East branch. Though the first unit agrees to take them to the base, Lenka witnesses the entire group being turned away upon arrival, because none of them were judged to be compatible with a god's arc. He attempts to intervene but is stopped by Lindo. In a flashback, Johannes looks over a report regarding an incident with the Oracle Cell mutation. He then deletes a portion of it and replaces it with falsified information. Returning to the base, Lenka inquires about the Aegis project with Hibari, who explains that the project is not yet complete. Meanwhile, Tsubaki gives Lenka, Sakuya, Kota, and Alisa their next mission, which is to extract the cores of 2 large type Aragami. However, Sakuya has her give another mission, much to the dissatisfaction of Lenka and Kota, who wish to hunt the large type Aragami instead. During the mission, the 4 kill 2 of the 4 targets, but are cornered by the other 2. However, they are surprisingly saved by an Aragami called Diao's Pita, covered in a dark aura, which Alisa recognizes as the type that killed her parents. Flying into a rage, she charges at the Diao's Pita, but it incapacitates her and the others, and then begins attacking nearby civilians. With Sakuya and Kota still paralyzed, Lenka and Alisa attack the Diao's Pita to stop it from killing more civilians, but it incapacitates both, breaks Lenka's god arc, and massacres the rest of the civilians right before Lenka's eyes. Kota and Sakuya recover and distract the beast long enough for Lenka to carry Alisa to safety. However, continuing its attack on him, the Diao's Pita breaks the fragile land bridge, plummeting them all into a river below. Despite a massive wound, Lenka manages to survive his fall. He discovers Alisa unconscious and uses CPR to revive her. Upon regaining consciousness at an abandoned building, Alisa realizes her god arc is missing. As she leaves to look for it, she stops to see how injured Lenka is. Returning to his side, she performs basic first aid before noticing Lenka's destroyed god's arc. When an Aragami attacks the area, Lenka and Alisa take shelter. Lenka comments on the effectiveness of Alisa's first aid and wonders if his god arc can be fixed, but Alisa remarks that his god arc is dead. The two then decide to sneak out to search for Alisa's god arc. Arriving back at the river, they notice the hilt of Alisa's god arc in the water, but as she goes to pick it up, she is attacked by Aragami, which triggers flashbacks of her parents' deaths and compromises her ability to fight. Lenka tries to save her and even uses his body as a human shield to protect Alisa, but Lindo arrives on the scene and saves them both. He then admonishes Lenka for his actions, and decides to take Lenka and Alisa to a secret sanctuary, instead of heading to the extraction point. He reveals that the area is guarded by Aragami-infused trees, which are monitored and protected by Lindo. Lenka accompanies Lindo as he harvests Aragami cells from the trees, and witnesses their offensive capability when an Aragami accidentally touches the tree. Meanwhile, Alisa thinks about her previous encounter with the Aragami, which continues to traumatize her. An Aragami later breaches the sanctuary and manages to evade the trees. Lindo tells Lenka to protect the sanctuary and its people, and to believe in his god arc despite its damage. Coming up with a strategy, Lenka distracts the Aragami with various attacks until he obtains an ampules to damage it. However, the Aragami puts up its defense mechanism, and Lenka uses the last ampule by powering his damaged god arc, turning it into a monster that defeats the Aragami. Lindo notices Lenka's success, while Alisa helplessly watches the events. In a flashback, Johannes and his team discover the Oracle cells evading a certain cell. Afterward, their report is denied by the government. In the present day, Johannes oversees the development of Aegis on his computer. Lenka and Alisa are rescued and brought back to the Far East branch. Lenka's god arc is sent in for repairs, while Alisa is transferred to a psychiatric ward. Meanwhile, Tsubaki tells Lindo about the Diao's Pita, and mentions that Alisa has some connection to it. Lindo then goes off to explore Aegis Island. During a medical and physiological examination, Lenka learns that his internal wounds from the battle against the Pita have miraculously healed. During a mission to kill a swarm of Aragami, the joint force assigned to the mission is outnumbered. Tsubaki orders a retreat, but Lenka, observing from the command center, instructs the joint force to go underground to find an exit, explaining that retreating above the ground will only result in further disaster. When it becomes clear that Lenka's plan leads to a successful mission, he is given command of the team and commended on his leadership. In the God Arc maintenance room, Sakaki informs Lenka that his God Arc snapped because his compatibility rate exceeded the weapon's capabilities, not from the Diao's Pita's attack. Lenka also learns his heightened compatibility rate is caused by his God Arc's Oracle cells invading his body, and at this rate will increase even more and hasten his death should he wield his God Arc further. In a flashback, Johannes, Sakaki, and Aisha remark on test results of the Manigarm project. An earthquake rocks the entire planet, and enormous Oracle cell spires rise from the ground all over the world, destroying anything in their vicinity. A colony of Oracle cells is seen gathering as the first Aragami emerges from the ground. In a flashback to the first days of the Aragami outbreak, Johans, Sakaki, and a woman called Aisha meet in a room overlooking the destruction, and they notice a building tipped with anti-oracle cell lights, which they later call bias factor, and Johans wonders if the bias cell can be used as a weapon. Back to the present, Lenka was curious about Soma's Grim Reaper nickname, realizing that Soma's surname is the same as Johan's. Later, Tsubaki outlines further details regarding the placement of the Aragami guidance devices with Lenka before being called to train new recruits. Lenka asks why she stepped down as a god eater, where it's revealed that she doesn't believe Aragami can be fully exterminated, but hopes the next generation will find a solution. Lenka and Soma are later sent on a mission to destroy more Aragami. When Soma hesitates to use his special attack against them, Lenka reaffirms that he has every right to exist as his own person, as a beacon of hope rather than a harbinger of death. Hearing these words, Soma lets loose his special attack, killing the Aragami. Later, he confronts Lenka about having viewed his file, and explains the futility of the Aegis plan as Aragami can never be truly destroyed. Lenka implores Soma to pass his own hope for the future onto the next generation. We also find out from another flashback that Aisha is Soma's mother. Meanwhile, Sakaki finishes restoring Lenka's god arc, which has taken a new form. 15 years earlier, a child, called Iroha Atsugi, and her parents is among those denied entry into Fenrir, since Fenrir only allows entry to god arc candidates and their blood relatives, and they all test negative. Iroha's family then adopts an abandoned baby, and names him Lenka. 8 years later, Iroha and Lenka's mother fall ill, so they join a search party to find medicine for the sick. An Aragami attacks and kills everyone, but they escape. Cornered by multiple Aragami, Lindo rescues them and imparts a test kit to Iroha. Lenka then falls ill, so his mother dies after choosing to use the remaining medicine on him. Meanwhile, Lenka tests positive for compatibility with God Arc, but Iroha hides this result from him. A few years later, Aragami attacks their camp, and their father is trapped under debris. He convinces Lenka and Iroha to escape just before Aragami consumes him. After escaping, Iroha's wound infests and immobilizes her just as Aragami surrounds their hideout. She reveals his test results and requests him to join Fenrir. However, he refused to abandon her, so she fatally slices her own throat. Saddened, Lenka escapes while promising her that he will change the world. Iroha apologizes to her parents for not being able to watch over him anymore, as before the Aragami consume her. The story returns to the present, where Lenka has successfully merged with his new and evolved god Arc. God Eaters from all around the world convene in Fenrir for Operation Meteorite. After Tsubaki outlines the plan, she announces Lindo as leader of the operation, but he suggests Lenka take his place. Lenka accepts the position, and all celebrate. Operation Meteorite commences, and they all start killing the Aragami. Suddenly, an unknown device activates inside the dam, causing all Vajras to migrate in its direction. Lindo investigates and discovers it is also the location of a settlement, inhabited by refugees denied access to Fenrir. Lindo goes alone to protect them, as Aragami thwarts the other units from joining him. Thus, Lenka decides to leave the command center to aid Lindo. In a flashback, Johans and Aisha expect the birth of their child, but she is unable to deliver. The doctors perform a C-section, but flesh bursts out from her womb, instantly killing everyone in the operating room. Johan survives thanks to his good luck charm, which is composed of material that deflected the oracle cells. He finds his newborn son inside the operating room, and sees Aisha's whole body covered with flesh, except in one place with an oracle crystal core. Lenka, armed with a new god arc, helps Lindo fight off the Vajras, reasoning that someone must have activated another guiding device, which distracted the Aragami. Lindo sets out to find it but encounters the Dial's Pita. He fights it alone to allow the others to go and protect the villagers. Lenka and the others rescue the villagers, but are shocked to see the Dial's Pita emerge without Lindo. Upset by his death, they engage in and Lenka ultimately kills it, before collapsing from accelerated oracle cell erosion. Upon recovering, Lenka becomes the new captain of the first unit with Alisa, Kota, Soma, and Sakuya. While Soma is on a mission, a shadow can be seen looking over him, who then brings various canned foods to an unseen man before stopping to smoke. And this brings the anime to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care.